Hello friends, in this video I am going to discuss second language learning, as I already discussed first language acquisition, and now we'll see second language learning. You might notice one thing, that why this is second language learning, not acquisition, as in the previous video I differentiate between learning and acquisition, because the first language mother tongue we acquired, and other languages we learn them as a second language. That is learning, not acquisition. All right, and now we'll see second and foreign language learning. What is the difference between second and foreign language? All right, so foreign language is that language that is not generally spoken in the surrounding community. If you belong to a community where that language is not spoken, it is a foreign for you, it's a foreign language. And a second language is that is spoken in your community. All right, and now we'll see learning versus acquisition. In the previous video I already covered the difference between acquisition and learning. Okay, just let rephrase it. So the gradual development of ability in first or second language by learning it in a natural communicative situation, that is language acquisition. For example, a child dances a mother tongue, that is acquisition. So, whereas learning is the conscious process of accumulating language skills and polishing language abilities, in contrast to acquisition, and that is learning. This is the difference, and now we'll see barriers to second language learning. As I already make a detailed video on learning English as a second and foreign language and the barriers we face, so just a quick glimpse over it in this video as well. So the age factor is very important in language learning, and it is important, it is generally considered that there is a critical period for language acquisition. If that particular period of time is passed, then we didn't learn any language. All right, and this critical period for language learning is the time of puberty. All right, and it has been shown that students in their early teens are quicker, sharper in learning L2. L2 is the second language, remember. And the optimum age for learning may be from 10 to 16 years old. The flexibility of our inherent capacity for language has not been completely lost. All right, as you observe that how quickly and fast the children acquire or learn any language as compared to adults. And now we'll see barriers to second language learning, that are affective factors. So basically these are negative feelings or experiences, affective factors. And as you know, the teenagers are more self-conscious, fear of embarrassment, fear of indifference. All right, and some insecurities they are faced by teenagers more than the child. Okay, so this is a barrier, this is an emotional reaction, this effect is a barrier for teenagers. All right, language teaching methods, we'll see three language teaching methods, that is GMT, grammar translation method, and Audiolingual method, and CLT, communicative language teaching method. The first one is GMT, that is grammar translation method, and it is the traditional method. And in this method, the vocabulary list and set of grammar rules are used to define the target of learning. And here in this process, memorization is encouraged. Okay, the person who is learning a language, he is supposed to memorize that language, and written languages emphasize more than the spoken one. And then comes the audiolingual method, and it is more advanced than this grammar translation method, and it emphasizes on spoken language. And so it's a belief that the fluent use of language was essentially a set of habits that could be developed with practice. Yes, it is true that language cannot be acquired or learned without practice. If we practice it, then obviously or skills polish in particular language, and it involves a systematic presentation of the structures of L2, that is second language, moving from simple to more complex in the form of drills. So these drills are exercises that the student has to repeat. It is more advanced and influential than the previous method, and now the most advanced method is the CLT, that is communicative language teaching method. Alright, it is the most recent one, and it is against the belief that the conscious learning the grammar rules of language will result in ability to use language. In previous methods, we see that the grammar rules are memorized, and they just believe that a language is learned by just learning the grammar rules of that particular language. Whereas this method opposes that idea, and it just emphasizes on more spoken abilities, alright, result in ability to use language, and the functions of a language should be emphasized more rather than forms of language. So here the function of language is more criticized or just more emphasized than the form of language. And now we'll see transfer. So transforming using sound expressions or structures from L1, that is first language, when performing in L2 second language, is transfer. And for example, if L1 and L2 have similar features, then the learners may be able to benefit from the positive transfer. Let me give you an example. And if you are living in Pakistan and you are speaking Punjabi and then you are learning Urdu, so there is a positive transfer. So L1 is the your Punjabi and L2 is your Urdu. So as you know, there is a similarity between those two languages. So this transfer is positive transfer. And on the contrary, if L1 and L2 have different features, transferring of this result is negative transfer. For example, being a Pakistani, if we are learning English and Urdu is L1 and English is L2, so as you see, there are no similar features among these languages. So between these two languages, then the transfer here is negative transfer. Negative transfer, which is also known as interference, is more common in early stages of L2 learning and often decrease as the learners develop better familiarity with L2. Now we'll see interlanguage and fossilization. What is interlanguage? So this is a theorem system of L2 learners which has some features of L1 and L2 plus some more features that are independent of L1 and L2. And this suggests that there is an in-between system used in L2 acquisition process that certainly contains aspects of L1 as well as L2, but which is inherently variable system with rules of its own. And the process whereby an interlanguage contains many non-L2 features. If you have L1 as a first language and L2, it contains many non-L2 features, and thus this stops the developing process towards more accurate forms of L2, and that is fossilization. And language can be fossilized if some learners develop a fairly fixed repertoires of L2 expression containing many forms that do not match the target language and seems not to be progressing any further. And now we'll see motivation in learning a language. There are two kinds of motivation in learning a language: instrumental motivation and integrative motivation. Instrumental motivation is that motivation if you learn L2 in order to achieve some goals, for example completing a graduation or being able to read scientific publications. All right, that motivation is instrumental. Whereas if you desire to learn L2 for social purposes in order to take part in social life of community using that language, or as a member of community, that is integrative motivation. For example, if a Pakistani he moves to Arabia, he have to learn that language and Arabic, so his motivation will be integrative. And now, so this all about second language acquisition. Reference is George Yule, study of language, and the notes are in the description. Thank you for watching.